This is true movie about the million-dollar arm of two young Indian men. One is Rinku and the other is Dinesh. They are poor boys living in rural India where they originally watched sports. Was something of a pipe dream until the day the appearance of a shot put competition spread throughout India. Two young men had hidden their families to participate in the competition when they learned that the organizer of the tournament was million-dollar arm is Ben, an American man specializing in brokering sports players. One day, Ben had a contract negotiation session with a professional baseball player, but he asked for $1 million for the position. Because Ben is having financial difficulties, he cannot meet this condition. For the past 3 years, he has not signed a contract. His close friend who cooperate with him also feels discouraged and wants to give up unintentionally. Once watching a sports program, he discovered that in India there was a throwing sports with a style. A play quite similar to flowing ball, because at that time flowing ball was not yet popular in India, so Ben came up with a plan to change it, changing a pitcher into a professional baseball player. The place he attacked would be the India market. Ben started calling for investors and got a Chinese boss who agreed to contribute capital for him to do it, the million-dollar arm project. However, instead of 2 years as he suggested, he asked him to succeed within a year because he was so enthusiastic about this project. So Ben had to accept, and then he went to find a coach, professional staff to support the played recruitment process as well as train new players here. Even the coach is skeptical about this project. Turning someone who know absolutely nothing into a professional players is difficult. It only been a year and it even more difficult, even though he know it not simple. But Ben still doesn't give up before packing his luggage and flying over. Suddenly, a sweet sales lady come over to his house and asks him to help her fix the machine. Because time was too tight, Ben refused to help. In return, he generously gave the house key to the neighbors so she could use the washing machine anytime. After arriving in India, he found that the place is still very old-fashioned. The roads are congested with traffic, but people still like to squeeze the Indian representative, who superficially doesn't come to the airport to pick him up as scheduled. Even when planning was discussed, the flyers didn't have the pilot t-shirts. Students participating in scouting and baseball equipment are all in the warehouse of India Customs. This is a country famous for slow motion, not only in movie but also in working style. The representative said if you want to take after hearing this, Ben immediately understood that this was an intentional bribe. After China had paid enough, the items he needed for the plan were also fully equipped with a promotional bribe. After China had paid enough, the items he needed for the plan were also fully equipped with a professional program for the best pitcher contest, was spread everywhere and offered millions of dollars in prize. The whole India nation was going crazy over this pitching competition. Ben and a team of experts traveled across rural towns in India to organize the compensation to select people. However, at the first location, they sat in the sun for half a day, but no one returned. With a satisfactory throw, he received news from the neighbor that his washing machine was also broken. She tried to explain and offering remedial measures as well as sending inquiries about his business, like a man who now just want to focus on his career. One more day, another competition to recruit good pitchers has passed, attracting quite a crowd. Contestants participated, but everyone didn't know how to throw, how to get the maximum score. At that time, Dinesh appeared and threw 4 times, with the correct score as required, making Ben even more hopeful that the next one would be won. The boy stood on one leg with his hand holding the ball. He stood in that position for 1 minute and everyone was bored because they didn't know what joke he was going to make. By the time throw was thrown, the result was given to them. My eyes lit up with a surprising score above the requirements. This was the best backhand throw in the entire selection exam. During the entire selection process, the organizers selected 20 people qualified to participate in the trial round the next day after the competition. At the beginning of the list, whoever meets the requirements will be taken to America to train the 2 most valuable candidates, Dinesh and Rinku, who in turn achieved excellent results beyond expectations, and the whole village held a ceremony to celebrate their victory. The young men and their families entrusted Ben to take care of them because this was the first time their child had gone away from home. After all, those 2 young men were still children. Ben's trip was as successful as he expected, happily returned home and gave his neighbor a gift during his stay in India. She also often contracted him to encourage him and even helped him take care of the house. But this time he discovered that the neighbor had been boyfriend. Suddenly felt a bit disappointed. He had his own answer for this relationships. So without thinking any further, he just focused on his million-dollar arm project. He arranged for 2 bright candidates. The price to stay with an interpreter in a hotel is also expensive. However, that night, for some reason, while he was sleeping, the hotel staff called him. Ben immediately ran the hotel and was informed of 2 candidates. I didn't know how to use it, so the machine got stuck. Then they pressed the siren, then the fire alarm, all sorts of things. This may not have been reported to the police, but they asked me to take those 2 guys out of here in the middle of the night. I don't know where to go. Ben had to call and ask his project investor's friend, AA, but he reluctantly used the excuse that his wife and children family couldn't accommodate the other 3, so he had to take them home. Here, 3 people sleep in the same room, which is a cramped and difficult to live in. But they still set up a small temple right in the room to pray day and night to the gods for protection and blessing. This is a custom that is deeply ingrained in people's blood, and Ben knew he couldn't stop them, so he had to ignore taking care of them because he was tired, and training them was even harder than when they were on the practice field. Both of them threw suddenly without hitting a single shot. The rope was thick and they couldn't even tie it themselves. Even though the training was, the coach commented that they were very obedient, but to turn them into professional players did not happen overnight. What he needed to do now was to help them reduce stress. Ben also accepted the coach contributions, ready to take them out. At that time, Ben received a call from players Bobo, who asked him to advance $1 million before agreeing to sign the previous contract. Now he is not happy with the new team, so he wants to join, working with Ben. When he heard the news, Nam Chin was very happy and immediately packed his bags to go to the party to meet his candidate. However, when he got there, he saw that many other soccer team members were also there. Bobo reassured him and invited him in. The room talked together, during which time Rinku and Dinesh became curious about strange things that they never experienced before. The result was disastrous. Ben had to leave halfway through the negotiations with Bobo because Rinku and Dinesh were bullied. On the way home, they even vomited all over Ben's car, making him extremely uncomfortable. Fortunately, the male lead remained calm and returned to the negotiations with Bobo, unexpectedly. At that time, Bobo had already agreed a contract with another soccer team and lost a big customer, which made Ben almost want to explode. Went home and was grumpy with them, feeling really sad like a dog, biting and apologizing to the calf head. The day I could only say sorry. I took thoughts and a bottle of wine out into the yard with my neighbor. This project was everything to me and was my last chance to assert my position. If I failed, then looks like he has nothing left. After listening to the neighbor comfort him, after all, he still has a house and car. Don't be too pessimistic. She also just broke up with her boyfriend. After hearing this, the birdo, by mistake, Ben's heart became sad again. The next day, Ben quickly regained his spirit and started work. He was more enthusiastic and friendly with the 3 Indians. During that time, they became like family, no longer distinguishing between master and servant. The mood was relaxed. Being open helped him soon enter into a relationships with his neighbor. Although everything went smoothly, this was still not the right time for the 2 candidates to present themselves. He met with investors and asked to delay the show and prolong that was an extra year, but he did not agree because business people always respect agreements. So there were only 3 short months left to turn 2 clods of soil into 2 bushel pearls. Be returned to report the bad news. For his coach to jump up. Talking about this song is really difficult because he is the one who directly trains them. Every day he knows clearly their qualities and abilities. Regardless of the qualities, skills, and experience, they are at their level. Experience needs to be fostered over time. If so, just increase the time they practice throwing the ball and maybe it will fix problem. Suddenly, Brenda called again to say that she was at the hospital with Rinku and Dinesh. It turned out that they learned to cook according to the neighbor's instructions. Due to carelessness, they got cut on their hand. That was the picture. So Ben got mad again. But this time he didn't blame them, but instead spoke harshly to the shopkeeper. Their neighbors are his money, his fame, and his entire future. Do you know what you're doing? Seeing Ben get so angry, Brenda doesn't blame him. She just gently reminds him that they are still people. Child Ba Tang deadline has already passed, and the day has come for the 2 Indian candidates to introduce. There are a lot of people watching this program out of curiosity, raising an army for a year and only using it for this one moment. Ben left like he was suffocating, standing and watching their every shot. But no matter how many shots they threw, they missed, and it was even worse than when they were competing in India. For this heavy defeat, the coach said everything was too much. With the children, the investor saw the potential of this project. He was satisfied with the large number of followers. He agreed to give Ben 3 years to complete the agreement. However, he wanted him to exchange these 2 candidates into another group of new and more promising candidates. His 2 golden egg-laying hens had given up hope. He admitted that Brenda was right because in this project he used marketing tricks because people were curious. So the many new followers were afraid that next time the effect wouldn't be as good. After a night of thinking, he decided to go to the investors and ask for Rinku and Dinesh to give them a chance to try. At that time, the investors was only interested to profit and value, so he refused Ben's offer and couldn't make a deal. So Ben also kicked him out of his project. Instead, he seduced all his employees and friend, looking for more investors. On another occasion, they diligently called and invited and finally got results. That day, Ben drove to the meeting point and met a man on the jury of the contest in India. He asked him to drive to a house. The agent introduced him to a top scout of the most famous soccer team in America. That night, the 3 India and their neighbor organized a cozy party for Ben before returning home. The country they want. Thank you for what you have done for them all this time. At the same time, Ben also announced that his project has found another investor, so Dinesh and Rinku will try again soon, the second time. And this time he wanted them to be very comfortable. The first person to start was Rinku. He stood in the left-handed position of throwing the ball. Looking at his face, he was very comfortable and confident. The The result of that throw reached 93 points and surprise. Dinate pitching turn also had similar success, proving that both candidates and Ben really appreciated this opportunity through the competition. Rinku and Dinate both cinched contracts with the team after only 10 months since they learned about soccer. They became the first India athletes to sign a contract with a professional sports league in the US. English translator Guyan returned to his homeland and started as a soccer coach while Ben continued the $1 Million Arm project. He achieved a lot of success and also created a perfect family with this as the end today movie content. Thank you for your interest. See you all in the next video on the channel.